At Sunday dinner I said, "I'm excited for our big family cruise." My sister snorted, "Oh, you thought you were coming?" My dad grinned, "It's for real family." Laughter, I just nodded and helped clear the plates. A week later they got to the airport and nothing was paid. I'd reversed every booking. The family chat exploded with panicked messages, then came the first call from my dad. The last thing I ever expected to hear at Sunday lunch was my dad telling me, in front of everyone, that they'd be flying to Hawaii on my money. There was no build-up to it, no softening of the blow. He just dropped it in the middle of the conversation like he was commenting on the salad dressing. I thought he was joking at first, that maybe it was some kind of messed up attempt at humor. But then Angela pulled out her phone and started scrolling through the resort pictures. Michelle mentioned how she was hoping to swim with dolphins and wondered if I had remembered to book that excursion. My mom looked at me and said she was glad I'd finally decided to do something meaningful for the family. All of them just sitting there calmly discussing their vacation like it was something we planned together. We hadn't. In fact, I hadn't even told them when I booked my own flight. I'd been quietly saving for nearly a year, not with extra money lying around, real saving, stretching every paycheck, taking on ugly weekend shifts, selling stuff I used to love, no social life, no takeout, no days off unless I was sick. I had a spreadsheet with daily goals, and I hit them like it was religion. All I wanted was 1 week in Hawaii alone, no noise, no one asking me for favors, no one telling me I wasn't enough. They knew about it. I told them months ago, around New Year's. Back then, they laughed it off. Angela said I'd hate it and come crawling back by day 2. Michelle joked I'd probably cry alone on a beach. My dad said I was being impulsive. My mom said I should think about what really matters. I didn't realize then that what they really meant was, you should think about us. That Sunday lunch, they made it clear they had already booked their flights using my emergency card without asking. My mom apparently gave the number to Dad because she thought it was family money. Then he gave it to the girls, and they just went wild. First-class seats, 5-star resort, spa treatments. Michelle even signed up for some luxury yoga retreat that cost more than my rent. And there I was, sitting across from them with a half-empty plate of overcooked chicken, listening to them talk like I didn't exist, like I was just the ATM that finally delivered. I said nothing, smiled when they smiled, nodded when they said, "Thank you," even though they didn't really mean it. Inside, something went still. The next week was quiet. They were busy texting each other in the family group chat, planning outfits and hashtags for their vacation posts. I watched it all from a distance. Angela posted her packed suitcase. Michelle showed off her new bikini. My mom shared a photo of some beach restaurant she wanted to try. They even started calling it our trip, as if I was going with them, as if this whole thing was some generous gift I'd lovingly prepared. The night before their flight, around midnight, I canceled everything. I'd already flagged the card and spoken with the travel agency. It took 15 minutes, flights gone, resort canceled, excursions refunded to my account. I turned off my phone and went to sleep. The morning of their flight, I turned it back on, 76 unread messages. The first ones were confused, then came the frantic ones, then came the picture, Angela crying at the airport, Michelle red-faced with frustration, Mom on the phone trying to figure out what happened, my dad looking like someone had stolen his world. The caption under Angela's photo just said, "How could you?" That night my dad called me. No greetings, no small talk, just told me I had betrayed the family, that I'd embarrassed them, that if I didn't make it right, I was no longer welcome in the house or in their lives. I said, "Okay." He paused for a moment like he didn't understand what he just heard, then he hung up. That was the moment everything really started to change. 2 days after they were supposed to be flying over the Pacific, they showed up at my place, no warning, just a hard knock at the door around noon like it was urgent. I opened it, and there they were, my dad in his work boots, Mom clutching her purse like it was a shield, Angela in sunglasses despite the cloudy day, and Michelle in one of those giant hoodies she wears when she's about to start something. None of them said hello. They walked in like it was their place, brushing past me and settling into my tiny living room like they had a right to be there. I just stood by the door for a second, watching them try to figure out who would speak first. My dad did, of course. He did. He said they weren't there to argue, just to clear the air. That phrase always meant the same thing in my family. Everyone yells at Mike until he agrees they're right. But this time was different. He said they felt blindsided and humiliated, that what I did at the airport wasn't just mean, it was cold, that it made them look like fools in front of strangers, like they'd been tricked. My mom chimed in next. She said she was confused. Why would I embarrass the family like that? Didn't I realize how stressful this year had been? That they needed this trip, not wanted, needed, like their emotional well-being depended on a beachside cocktail and a massage I was supposed to fund. Angela was quieter but not any better. She kept shaking her head and saying she still couldn't believe I did that she had told all her friends about the trip and now had to explain it was cancelled by her brother for no reason. Michelle just stared at me like I was a traitor. She only said one thing the whole time, "You knew we were counting on this." That sentence stuck in my head, counting on it, not hoping, not asking, counting. They all thought this was a done deal. They decided among themselves that my work, my savings, my plans didn't matter, that I'd roll over like always. When I didn't, they didn't try to understand. They acted like victims. I didn't fight, I didn't yell. I just sat there and listened. I nodded at the right moments, said things like I hear you and I get that. Let them think they were getting through to me. Let them believe they'd soften me. It was easier that way. They left thinking I was halfway to apologizing. They had no idea. 3 days later, I got a text from Michelle. Said she was short on rent, said the landlord was getting antsy, and she just needed a little help this month. I stared at the message for a full minute, then put my phone down and did nothing. Later that evening, Angela sent me a follow-up. Hey, can you cover Michelle's rent just this once? She's freaking out. I didn't open it. The next morning, Mom called. Her tone was softer, more emotional. Said she was really worried about Michelle, said it would be heartbreaking if she got evicted. Then she slipped in that it would reflect badly on all of us if the neighbors found out. I still said nothing. That night, my dad called. He didn't waste time. He said I was punishing my sisters, that withholding help was cruel, that I was crossing a line, and he didn't recognize the person I was becoming. He was right. He didn't recognize me. None of them did, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't letting guilt guide me. The messages kept coming over the next few days, longer, more emotional, more dramatic. Angela accused me of ruining Michelle's life. Michelle said I was selfish, bitter, and fake. My mom sent voice messages I didn't listen to. My dad said I was no longer acting like part of the family. I didn't respond to any of them, and the silence hit them harder than yelling ever could. A week later, I got a knock at the door again. I didn't open it this time. I peeked through the peephole and saw Michelle standing there alone, pacing. She stayed for a few minutes, knocked again, then left. That night, she texted me a screenshot of a rent notice and wrote, "Happy now?" I didn't reply. A day after that, Angela called 3 times in a row. I didn't answer. Then she texted, "This is getting out of hand, you're breaking Mom's heart." That was followed by a photo of Mom on the couch holding a tissue, looking sad. I turned off notifications. What none of them seemed to get was that they weren't just asking for money. They were testing me. They wanted to know if I was serious about not being the doormat anymore. They were pushing at the door, trying to see if it would open again like it always had. It didn't, and that's when the tone changed. The next few days, things escalated. My dad sent me a long message that looked like it had been written in Word and copied into a text. He called it a formal response to my behavior. He said I was cold, that my selfishness was destroying the family bond, that I needed to make amends or I'd be on my own for good. I replied with one word, understood. That set off another chain of messages, this time from my mom, long paragraphs about sacrifice, love, family. She said they raised me better, that I'd forgotten who I was. Then came the part that really showed their hand. If you keep this up, your sisters might have to move back home. Do you want that for them? For us? That was it. That was the real problem, not Michelle's rent, not Angela's spa day, not their hurt feelings. It was inconvenience. They didn't want to deal with the mess they made. They wanted me to keep things quiet, manageable, clean, but they broke it, and now they were trying to guilt me into taping it back together. I didn't flinch, I didn't send money, and within a few more days, Michelle finally broke. She posted on social media, cryptic at first. A black screen with a quote about betrayal, then a selfie with a caption, "Guess who's moving back into the dungeon upside down face." It wasn't subtle. People started messaging me, family, friends, distant cousins, even a coworker who saw it and asked if everything was okay at home. That night, my mom left a voicemail, just crying, no words, just sobbing and sniffles. I sat on my couch and listened to it all the way through, then I deleted it. That week was the first real break, not a fight, not a dramatic showdown, just silence. Stubborn, heavy silence. They stopped texting, no calls, no guilt, no threats. It was like a standoff. They were waiting for me to blink, but I wasn't going to, not this time. By the end of the second week, the silence had started to feel normal, not peaceful exactly, but clean. For the first time in years, my phone wasn't vibrating with demands disguised as concerns. There were no guilt-laced voice notes, no emergencies with the rent, no phone calls that started with "we hate to ask," and ended with "my bank account lighter." I went to work, made dinner, took walks around the block like a guy who didn't know anyone anything. It felt almost surreal, like they were hibernating, waiting for me to crack and come crawling back. But I wasn't planning to. I felt steady for the first time in a long time. Then something weird happened. It was a Wednesday. I came home from work and there was a package sitting in front of my door. No return address, just my name written in permanent marker. I hadn't ordered anything, and it didn't look like something from a store. It was taped up like someone had rushed through it, like they wanted it gone fast. I brought it inside and opened it on the kitchen table. Inside were papers, stacks of them, printed out and crammed into a file folder. At first, I thought it was junk, until I started reading. They were screenshots, emails, text messages, chat logs, dozens of conversations between my family. Some were from months ago, others from just a few weeks before the Hawaii blow-up. The more I read, the colder I got. Angela had written to Michelle, "Don't worry, he's not going to do anything. Mike doesn't know how to say no." Michelle responded, "He'll be pissed for 5 minutes, then he'll cry and send the money like always." Another thread between my dad and Angela talked about how to justify it if I pushed back, Just say it's about healing the family, guilt him a little. Calls for emotional stuff. Use mom, she's the only one he halfway listens to. Then I found a message from my mom to Angela, don't tell him everything, just enough to make him feel included. You know how he gets when he thinks we're excluding him. And it wasn't just about the trip. There were messages going back years, rent payments, bills, even my birthday dinner 2 years ago that I thought they paid for. It was apparently put on my own card by Michelle, who laughed about it later in a chat with Angela. They had a whole system. I was their backup plan, their emergency fund, the invisible thread holding up the mess they kept creating for themselves. I had to sit down. I kept reading, not even feeling angry anymore, just stunned. There was a sense of something shifting, like gravity had changed, like I'd finally seen behind a wall I didn't even know was there. I still don't know who sent it. No note, no signature, just the truth dumped in a box. I checked the postmark. It came from across town, someone nearby, maybe someone in the family, maybe someone who had had enough. Whoever it was, they wanted me to see it. That night, Michelle posted a crying selfie on Instagram, real tears this time. The caption said, some betrayals you never recover from. In the comments, her friend tagged me, just wrote, dude, seriously? I didn't respond, I didn't need to. Then my phone rang. It was my dad. He didn't yell. He sounded exhausted, said the situation had spiraled, and that they were willing to come by and talk like adults. Said they just wanted things to go back to normal. I told him, sure, come by tomorrow. I was calm when I said it because now I wasn't wondering anymore. Now I knew exactly who they were. They came exactly when they said they would, 5 o'clock sharp. I already had the door unlocked. I wasn't nervous, I wasn't angry either. I'd stopped feeling much of anything about it. I was just curious now. I wanted to see how far they'd go pretending. All 4 of them walked in like it was a Sunday visit. My dad looked like he was trying out a softer version of himself, less barking orders, more corporate team leader. My mom carried a bag of store-bought cookies and put them on the table like it meant something. Angela was scrolling on her phone the whole time. Michelle didn't even say hello. We sat in the same room where they'd shouted at me years ago about quitting grad school, the same room where they made me explain why I was still single, again and again. This time, they didn't yell. They were polite, unnaturally so. My dad started. He talked about misunderstandings and emotional misfires. He said the family had been under a lot of pressure, that things were set in heat, and maybe I'd taken it more personally than they meant. My mom tried to tear up a little when she talked about wanting her son back. She said she missed my presence like I was a ghost that used to wander their house and now haunted someone else's life. Angela chimed in once to say, you know we love you, right? But she didn't look up from her phone. Michelle just stared at the floor like she was rehearsing something. They never apologized, not really. They used words like miscommunication, stress, poor timing, words that meant nothing. They didn't ask what I needed. They didn't acknowledge the betrayal, and no one, not one of them, mentioned the package with the screenshots, which meant either they didn't know it had been sent or they were pretending not to. Either way, I wasn't going to bring it up. That box had become more than evidence. It was leverage, and I wasn't in the business of wasting leverage on people who only cared about comfort. I played along, nodded, said I understood, asked how they were doing. I let them believe it was working. They left after about 45 minutes. My mom hugged me tight, my dad shook my hand like we'd signed a contract, Angela gave a side hug and mumbled, see you soon. Michelle didn't even turn around when she walked out. The next 2 days were quiet. Then the request came. Michelle texted me, hey, I know we're all good now, but rent's late, landlord's freaking, just this one time I swear. I stared at the message for a while, not because I was thinking about helping, but because I was watching how quickly the mask came off. I didn't respond. Angela texted next, you said we were moving forward, don't punish her. That word again, punish. That's what they thought this was. Not consequences, not accountability, just punishment. In their minds, the only reason I'd say no was to hurt them. Then came the full collapse. First a call from my dad, voicemail only. It started measured, then turned into shouting. He said I was manipulating the family, pretending to make peace just so I could twist the knife later, that I was playing games. Then my mom. She sent 6 messages in a row, all emotional spirals. She said she didn't recognize me anymore, that I used to care, that I used to be the good one. Angela left the family chat, rejoined, left again, then posted a story on Instagram with a quote about betrayal and some people will watch you drown and call it growth. Michelle finally dropped the act. She left a voice message, no filters, no emotional angles, just her screaming, full rage, real panic, not crying, howling. No words, just that raw, unbearable sound people make when their comfort is ripped away and they can't pretend anymore. And that was the day it ended. I saw the moving van outside her place that afternoon. By nightfall, she posted a blurry photo of her old bedroom in my parents' house. The caption said, back in the tomb, thanks to my selfish brother, subtle as always. 3 days later, Angela followed. She didn't announce it, but I noticed she went quiet online. A friend of mine spotted her car in my parents' driveway. They were back under the same roof, a full house, 1 bathroom, years of resentment, and me out of it. The next morning, I checked the family chat and saw I'd been removed. No message, no warning, just gone. And that was the moment I realized something important. They didn't remove me because they didn't care. They removed me because I had something they no longer controlled: peace. I didn't check the family chat anymore after they kicked me out. It wasn't dramatic, there was no final insult or last desperate plea. One day I opened the app, and the chat just wasn't there. No notification, no goodbye. That's how it ended. It felt strange at first, like when you instinctively reach for a wallet that isn't in your pocket. There was a hole where something used to be, even if it was something broken. And then it felt like nothing. I slept better, ate slower, stopped waiting for the next guilt trip to land in my inbox. My apartment, once temporary and bare, started to feel like mine. I rearranged the furniture, bought real curtains, I even painted a wall, something I never bothered to do before. Something about the quiet made me realize how much of my life had been wrapped around anticipating someone else's needs, and for the first time, I started thinking long-term about things like peace, a relationship that wasn't built on obligation, a home that didn't echo with someone else's voice. I didn't want to just escape anymore, I wanted to build. But peace never lasts long when other people are falling apart. One morning, I got a letter in my mailbox, real envelope, thick paper, no stamp. Someone had dropped it off by hand. The handwriting was sharp and neat. Inside were just a few lines: "You were never the problem. Others are starting to figure that out too. Keep your eyes open, you'll understand soon enough." That same week, I got a Facebook message from someone I hadn't thought about in years: my Uncle Greg, my dad's older brother, the one who disappeared after a falling out 2 decades ago. I barely remembered his voice. His message: "You need to hear a few things. Call me." I didn't want to, but I did. He answered immediately. No small talk. He said he'd been watching, well, not watching, but hearing. Apparently, someone in the family had sent him what I'd been sent, the screenshots, the messages. He wouldn't say who. He said it didn't matter. What mattered was the pattern. He told me stories about my dad I'd never heard, how he used to do the same thing to Greg: drain him, use him, guilt him into giving more than he could. Greg walked away when he was 32 and never went back. Said he recognized the same thing happening to me, just dressed up in modern clothes, group chats instead of family dinners, Venmo instead of guilt-laced birthday cards. Then he told me the part that stuck. My dad wasn't just acting out of pride or anger, he was covering something dead. Greg found records, court filings, quiet asset transfers, a business in serious decline. He said the Hawaii trip wasn't a celebration, it was a distraction, a desperate attempt to hold up the illusion of stability before it all collapsed. And now, with me out of the equation, it was collapsing faster. I asked why he was telling me all this. He paused, then said, "Because I know what it's like to be told you're the bad guy when you're the only one waking up." He offered a place to stay if I ever wanted to disappear for a bit: Oregon, remote, quiet, no strings. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. Over the next month, pieces started to flow back to me through other people. A coworker mentioned Michelle was working at the same coffee shop she used to make fun of. Someone else told me Angela had posted a crying video again, this time about toxic family patterns. My mom was seen outside the supermarket talking to herself, pacing. My dad sold his motorcycle, then his tools, then apparently half the furniture. They never reached out again, not once. They weren't ignoring me, they were pretending I no longer existed. That's how they managed it. If they acknowledged what happened, they'd have to admit they lost something they thought would never leave. And the truth is, they didn't lose me because I hated them. They lost me because I finally believed them, believed that if I stood up, they'd walk away. And they did, but not before I learned the most important thing: sometimes the only way to heal is to burn the bridge and keep walking until the smoke disappears behind you. It's been 3 months since I last heard from any of them. No texts, no calls, no letters, just silence. And honestly, it's been fine. Surprisingly fine. Michelle still lives at my parents' house. I heard from a friend of a friend that Angela tried moving out again but couldn't keep a roommate. My dad's business is still standing, barely, and my mom hasn't been seen much outside. But none of that really concerns me anymore. I'm still working, still building. I started seeing someone, not serious yet, but healthy, easy. We cook together, talk late. She doesn't know much about what happened, and I don't feel the need to explain all of it. Sometimes I walk past the places where I used to meet them, restaurants I paid for, stores I waited outside while they shopped. I don't avoid them, I just keep walking. I'm not angry, I'm not bitter, I'm just done. And for the first time in a long time, that's enough.